I'm sorry about this, guys. Just bear with me a little bit longer. It's gonna be like another minute, maybe two. Just gotta do a little meditative breathing. Okay, everybody. I apologize for leaving you hanging that long. That wasn't right. Alright. Dog got a little sick and... ugh. I swear everything is failing on me at once. Okay, is this working? There we go. Okay. Hello, everybody. I don't know what it is. The camera's giving me issues. The microphone seems to be going in and out a lot. It's not even a year old. Just got this, I don't know, beginning of this year, end of last year. Oh, let me get the music off. There we go. Anywho. Hey, Fractured, aka Illusion of Reality. Good to see you, brother. Hope you're doing well. Hey, Drone, Super, Boopster, Joey, Quietest, Solarized, and everyone else out there. Jimmy, hope you're doing well, brother. And before we start tonight, I was going to do a separate stream, and I probably still will, but a good friend of the channel and good friend of mine, Puya, lives in Iran and is going through a lot of turmoil right now. Some of you may be aware of what's happening there. So, if you guys don't mind, just take maybe 10 seconds to send him some loving protection and hope that he'll be all right. And that he makes the right decision for himself, and that everything clears itself up. Okay. All right. We love you, brother, if you're listening. Hang in there. Okay. So, tonight's near-death experience, it's actually a new one. It just came out, I don't know, I think like a week ago, maybe even less. And I immediately put it to the top of the list because it's really unique. It's a guy named Kevin Lutz, and he got stung by a bee. And there's a lot of really interesting, there you go with this. There's a lot of really interesting moments in this. Really interesting. And just off of observation, you guys obviously can make up your own opinion on this one, but I get the sneaking suspicion that this is I mean, obviously it has NDE qualities, but because of how he describes certain things, it's almost like he's teetering back and forth between an NDE and an OBE. It's a really wild experience. And so I want you guys to take a look at it with me and let me know what you think. But you're in for a wild ride. It packs a punch early on and it just does not let up. Okay. So again, this is the near-death experience of Kevin Lutz. Okay, so this is, just so you know, in the beginning, this is, I believe, Kevin's daughter who talks briefly too. All right, there we go.
It was a super weird day. Like, we have chickens, and so my dad was out back with my mom and my sisters, and I was inside, and he came in and was like, I think I got stung by something. And we didn't really think anything of it because he's been stung before. Like, it's never really been a big deal. But he immediately, he was like pale, like so stark white, and just immediately like totally like a ghost.
And then bam, I was on the other side, and I was floating there. And the first thing that came to my mind was I was home. I was just immersed in a blanket of just love and acceptance and everything positive, nothing negative. God? Like, is this God before me? Like, because this is something that is just so huge. Like the love coming from it, it's absolutely perfect.
Good evening and welcome to Earth to the Other Side. I'm your host, John Glasspool, and tonight I have a very special guest. His name is Kevin Lutz. He had an NDE back in 2021 in July 13th, where he was stung by a bee. And I will let him tell you the story. Thank you so much for being here, Kevin. It's wonderful to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to tell my story and just to see what you think of what happened to me. But yeah, it was last year. I'm 60 now, but I was 59 at the time. And I had just gotten home. I live out in the country, and I just run some errands. I live about 30 minutes out of town. And my family had been sitting out in the backyard. And so I went back to see them. And while we're sitting there talking around the table, I got stung on my arm right here. And, right away I realized, I just saw the thing fly away, and I assumed it was a bee or whatever. And I didn't really think much about it, but I went back inside, and then about 10 minutes later, something was going on. My heart rate had just gone through the roof. I was sweating, flushed. I asked my wife to bring me some Benadryl, and then I took some, but then I just said, you need to call an ambulance because something's serious is going on. And shortly after that, it just happened so fast. I was sitting there on the edge of my bed and my wife was right beside me, and I literally could just feel the life just draining out of me. Like, I think my blood pressure, my heart was racing so fast. My blood pressure just must have just fallen. And I remember looking at my wife and saying, this is really bad. I think I'm going to leave you. And then I was able to tell her, like, I felt so scared, but then I got scared for her. So then I was just able to tell her how much I loved her and everything, which made me feel so great. But then,
Okay, I'm sorry. I meant to say thank you to Earth to the Other Side for this video. I really appreciate it, and keep up the great work over on that channel. Check him out. He's a new and up and coming channel, but he's pumping out some really great NDEs. Definitely check him out.
all of a sudden, it was like this tunnel right in front of me, about 6 feet away, 7 feet away, appeared, and my daughter was standing there. And it was about a foot off the ground. It went all the way to the ceiling. It was about 4 feet wide. It had like a gray border going around it. And the border was it was coming out and curling in on itself, like it was churning. Mm-hmm. And I looked up this tunnel, and there's parts where I could kind of see through and like see the wall of the hallway or whatever, but it looked like I could just see way up there, and at the end there was like this little bright little thing of light. And I looked at this thing, and I was going to point at it and say to my wife, like, do you see this? But before I could even do that, this thing kind of popped out of me. It was like an oblong diamond shaped thing. And it was right in front of my face, and it was rotating, and it was kind of reddish in color, but I could kind of see through it.
So see, something's popping out of him. He's seeing it. I'm telling you, this experience, buckle up. It's a wild one.
It looked rigid, but it was solid. And I looked at it, and then all of a sudden it shot towards the tunnel. And that's when I saw that there was like maybe 15, 20 of them, because they all hovered there at the same time.
Okay, I'm sorry. I do have to stop it. But you notice how he says it was solid. Now, this goes to, I know this is like one little tiny example, but the world around us, we do live in some sort of simulated matrix reality that is essentially an illusion. I'm going to rewind it, but so for him to say that it was solid, that's because there is something giving off that illusion. Now, the reason why I'm kind of really pushing this is because think about how when people say that they see their loved ones, even apparitions, like you're sitting there, your mom or dad or your dog died, your cat died, and then all of a sudden they're, walking across the living room floor, and they look vibrant, they look great, but they look like them. And then some people will say that they looked, they look kind of translucent or transparent, but you can see the image of them. So I want you to keep in mind that, this is an interesting case because it shows us that, he's saying it was solid, like a physical material object. But this is something that is an illusion. This is a matrix illusion being provided to him.
It looked rigid, but it was solid. And I was...
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Solar Eyes says solid object shot out of him. Well, that's what he's saying. It looked solid. It had the, I guess, the characteristics of something solid, but it really is. It's not. It's not an actual object. And I just can't see that being possible. It's something being perceived as solid, and it feels very real and authentic to him as it being solid, but it's not. It's a part of a matrix illusion.
I looked at it, and then all of a sudden it shot towards the tunnel. And that's when I saw that there was like maybe 15, 20 of them, because they all hovered there at the same time, and they came out of me. I can't explain it. And then they went into the tunnel. They got sucked in all at once.
Now, they went into the tunnel, and they came out of him, and they went into the tunnel, and they got sucked in. Now, this is going to play an important role, and whoo boy, wait till you hear what he has to say. Just keep this part in mind.
And as soon as that happened, I was like hooked up to this tunnel. Like I could feel this tunnel with every molecule of my body. And I couldn't see, but I could feel there was something in that tunnel, and it was going through all those shards, I guess I'll call them. And it had like all of my data of my life. And it was going through it. It had everything that I've thought, I've eaten, everything was there. And right at the end of it, it seemed to be going over all my personal feelings. It seemed to be really interested in all the hardships, all the pain that I've carried in my life. It really seemed to be interested in that.
So see, I mean, so basically what we're hearing, guys, this is wild. Like these pieces are coming out of him. They're getting sucked into the tunnel ahead of time. And these things are a representation of his life. It's basically his fragments of his life review. And then what does he say? Oh, well.
Feelings. It seemed to be really interested in all the hardships, all the pain that I've carried in my life. It really seemed to be interested in that.
All the pain, all the hardships. It's really, that's the first thing this damn thing's interested in. Okay. What we got here? Ooh, let me get my hands on that.
What this was, I have no idea. But I know when it was looking through everything, I could tell that it didn't care what race I was, if I was a man or a woman, what I did for a living, how much money I had. All it cared about, it cared that I was a human, and that was all that was important. And it was going through everything in my life. And then it decided to come out. All of a sudden, it started coming out of this tunnel. And it felt like an avalanche of just energy, of love, of everything positive, of an acceptance. Just
okay, so kind of similar to a lot of near-death experiences. Like they go through quote unquote the judgment, even though they'll say there's no judgment. They go through this kind of like he doesn't really get into too much detail, but by the way he describes it, we see okay, it was the pain and the hardships, and then it was, this love bomb type thing. And I just really want to point out an interesting comment that Drones and Other Tones says. He says, maybe it's the loosh. That's a interesting thought. That's a really interesting thought that maybe they're basically the way I look at these things is they're etheric implants, okay, that are in the depths of someone. Heck, they could even have something to do with the chakra system. I don't know. But, that's an interesting comment, Drones and Other Tones. It's interesting.
Washing all over me. Anyway, I couldn't even imagine, I couldn't even imagine what was going on. My wife was right beside me. My daughter was right in front of me. Something came out of this tunnel. I couldn't see it, but as it came out, I could see it washing over my daughter's left arm and her body because she was standing right beside it, and it was like rippling. It was like a clear energy. And I don't think I talked to her about it afterwards. She said she didn't feel anything, but I saw it flowing over her. That's the only time I saw it. Anyway, it was in the room. And that's when things kind of darkened for me. My daughter in front of me and my wife beside me, they just disappeared. I was on my own. I was still sitting on the edge of the bed, looking at the tunnel, and about 5 feet over, that's when I noticed that there was something in the room with me. And I kind of looked over to take a look at it. And it was something that was just radiating intelligence. It was just absolutely.
Okay, so it was something radiating intelligence. Now, again, this is, falling under the God category, the all-knowing, all-powerful, and he elaborates on this.
Absolutely. I was like gobsmacked. It was just radiating so much power, so much strength, intelligence. I looked at it and I could see something spinning. And for a second, the spinning stopped and I could actually see what it was. And it was like a little silver gray metallic disc. And then it had rings around it and they all were spinning. And then they started spinning like so fast. And then it seemed to like erect this really weird kind of wall around it. So I couldn't see it anymore.
So it's like, I don't know, I kind of look at this as like almost like a trolling thing. It's like, oh, what's this thing? Oh, it's all powerful, it's old, it's maybe God. And then it like puts up a wall and says, okay, I don't know. Who knows? I'm just kind of shooting from the hip with this, but it's interesting.
But I could still sense it was there. I could tell it was there because I could feel it with every molecule of my body. I could feel it with my DNA was hooked up to this thing. It was so unreal. And I couldn't see it anymore, thank God, because I think I would have gone insane if I could actually see this thing. But it started coming towards me, and I can't, like, now when I think of it, it probably didn't even have a limit on its IQ, and it was old. I could just tell that the age coming off of it was hundreds of billions of years. Like, this thing is old. And right at that time, I kind of realized that, I think I'm looking at God. Like, is this God before me? Like, because.
See, again, how many times do we have to see this and hear it from someone? Again, no offense to Kevin or anyone who has a near-death experience and thinks that they met God, but I just don't believe that they're meeting God. I just don't. It's something that is able to portray itself as God, make someone feel like they're dealing with God. But think about how everything unfolded. You got the love bomb involved yet again. It's the same old, no different.
This is something that is just so huge, like the love coming from it. It's absolutely perfect.
The love coming from it is absolutely perfect. Again, I know I bring this example up all the time, but it can't be stated enough how mothers will say constantly how it was stronger than the birth of their child. Or someone will say that, the day they got married or anything. You pick, again, the pinnacle of loving moments in your life and multiply that by 10,000, 100,000, a million, whatever. And it cannot compare to a love experienced here on earth. I mean, I know I say it all the time, but you got to drive it home to make, you know, people who are new or kind of on the fence with this understand that what we are dealing with is some sort of massive manipulative mechanism, manipulative tool that somehow, some way makes us believe that it is something like a god, like a creator, okay, like the one. And yet what it has in its arsenal is a bag of tricks. It's got love, it's got judgment, it's got sinning, and all these life reviews. It's got all sorts of little bags up its bags of tricks to dish out. Sorry. And we know nothing about it. It knows everything about us, though. It sure as hell knows everything about us. But it also manipulates us. We have to stop blindly going down the tunnel into the light. We have to. It's the only way to just give ourselves the chance not to fall back into this crap again. Seriously, I think we cannot end up there, guys. We can't. We have to stand our ground in non-interference, sovereignty, and liberation. Please, please, please. Again, like I just put out that short just yesterday or the day before, and I say, you don't have to believe a word I say. Don't discount, if you don't believe the narrative or that's fine. No big deal. I'm not trying to convince anyone. What I am trying to do is say to everyone, okay, listen, we don't know what we're dealing with here. So what is the problem with going the route of non-interference, sovereignty, and liberation? There's nothing wrong with that. And if all this stuff is like it's cracked up to be, then it could wait. If it's all loving and it cares about us and blah, blah, even though it's clearly diametrically opposed to what's actually occurring here, then it can wait, right? Anyone who fights that is just an idiot. I'm sorry, okay? There's nothing wrong with just standing your ground and doing your own thing and seeing what happens by doing that. And then if you want to go fall back into this stuff, go for it. I mean, heck, a lot of this stuff can be wrong that we talk about, but I think we're pretty damn close to seeing what's happening. But don't allow like everyone else to drive you and tell you what to do. You deserve better. You are the king or the queen of your own castle, and nothing should be allowed to tell you what to do or where to go or how to, nothing. Stand your ground. Take care of yourself for once.
Huge. Like the love coming from it, it's absolutely perfect. I can't, I have a hard time explaining it, but it was just like what we're taught about God and everything. We don't even have a clue, because what this was like what they teach about God and that in the church is like a firecracker going off. What's before me right now is like an atomic, the biggest atomic bomb being exploded. Like there's no comparison. It's just, I could feel my mind starting to slip, because what I was comprehending was just too much for me. And all of a sudden I get like this message and it says, do not worship. And that's all it says. And for some reason, this is like a slap to my face. It's like a bucket of cold water being thrown on me. It like sobers me up. And I'm like, and then I seem to get like all this information that's just saying, it cares little for worship. It wants me to live my life, just stuff like that. It was just unreal. And then I get like a vision.
Wants me to live my life, do my own thing.
all of a sudden I get like a vision of the earth on my left hand side. And it's like the earth is right there. And then right before me is like the universe. It's like our entire universe, like right there. And then there's something else on my right side, but I can't remember what it is. My mind won't let me remember, or it's blocked it out. I don't know, but I'm
Aha. Did you hear that, guys? I don't know. My mind won't let me remember. He remembers a lot of other details, right? But you notice how it's right when he is presented with Earth, what did he say on his left?
something else. It's like our entire universe, like right there. And then there's something else on my right side, but I can't remember what it is. My mind won't let me remember, or it's blocked it out. I don't know, but I'm under.
My mind won't let me remember, or it's blacked out.
Understanding, it's telling me that it's in charge of all of this. It's connected to every single thing on this earth, in this universe, and that this is how it learns, man. It learns through us. It learns through everything, because it's a part of everything.
Because it's a part of everything. It learns through us. Now, you know, some of the craziest new age stuff that we hear is that, you know, we have to come down to, brace yourself. We have to come down to earth because God needs to experience earth through us. Now, seriously, isn't that the most whacked out crap you've ever heard? I mean, come on. So we have to come down here and deal with all this horse shit, this clown show, because God needs us to be his little playthings. And apparently God created this place and it's a complete dumpster fire filled with atrocities and suffering and all sorts of things. And of course, there's a lot of good too. Come on, you can't be negative all the time. But let's talk about the big picture, guys. Let's just, come on, let's get real. Oh, excuse me. It's, anyways, you get my point. We don't need to be coming down here for any god or clown show god. I mean, seriously, what is this God? It's a clown show. You know what it is? In my opinion, a strong opinion, is what we are dealing with is we are dealing with some sort of AI. It can't be anything else. It is so sophisticated and so, it runs like a machine. And really, think about it. Just let's apply some common sense. Common sense. Do you think if there is a God in the first place, some creator of everything and anything, do you think that it's like it's okay? So we have this whole huge, let's just, for lack of a better word, say multiverse. Do you think that God is just chilling at the light at the end of the tunnel, like 24/7, like it doesn't have anything else better to do? Really, is that what's going on? I mean, come on, guys, come on. I mean, really, I mean, we've been hoodwinked for so long. We just need to stop with just blindly going along with the show constantly. It's ridiculous.
Through us, it learns through everything, because it's a part of everything. And I think when I first saw that spinning molecule or something, for some reason, I get the message that this is like, that this molecule is like in everything. It's what connects the whole universe. It's so weird. So anyway, I can kind of see an outline.
Okay, so like when, I've heard other cases similar, like where they say, everything's connected and, you know, it's all part of the universe and stuff like that. Like, but what if that is what is perceived here, guys, right? Think about it. Like, seriously, what if, yeah, maybe, okay, because if everything is connected, then it maybe, I mean, this is just an assumption, but you would think that it kind of all roots back to one source, and kind of that one source kind of stems out and, you know, spreads itself throughout the multiverse, okay, in all these different realms. But what if what NDEers and all these other experiences are going through are just perceiving, yeah, everything's connected, but it's connected within the overall confines of the matrix. We don't know if any of that is absolutely accurate outside of this system. See, so many questions that don't get asked, don't even, much less considered. And we just need to think bigger. We really do. We can't think so limited, like in terms of, oh, everything is one and we're connected and this, that. You know, maybe that's the case. Maybe. I'm not saying it isn't, but why assume? We can't assume that's the case. A good matrix, a good parasitic matrix like what we're in now, would want us to feel like that is the case. Maybe where people go when they experience the light and they think is God and it's all knowing and it's all, like he says, it's old, it's been here for a while, then maybe that's like us plugging into the AI, like a direct connection. And then like we're kind of boom, like enhanced, and then we feel like everything is connected, but it's all part of the trick. Seriously, that I could see something like that being the case. But what is it outside of the whole matrix? That's the big question. What, you know, how does it all play itself out in other realms, other universes? Just saying.
In everything, it's what connects the whole universe. It's so weird. So anyway,
it's weird.
I can kind of see an outline. I'm getting a projection of these three things. The third thing I can't tell. And I get a little impression of the outline of what I think is before me, which I guess is God, but I don't know what this is before me. It's so big. And I kind of look into it and I can see, it's like I kind of fall into it. It's like falling into like a giant cloud. And there's like these bursts of blue, like electricity, like coming up towards me. And I tell you, man, you could just get, I could have just floated in that forever. But then all of a sudden, that is gone away. And there is something else like right there before me, and it's staring at me. And it's like so humbling because it's like the universe looking at me. And I'm like with everything that's going on, this universe so big, like this thing has time to have to, you know, for insignificant me, you know, like, anyway, this thing, and this thing's not God. I don't know what this is, but it starts coming towards me. And as it does, it looks like just multiple like eyes, I guess. And they're kind of spinning. But as they are concentrating on me, they're kind of opening me up, it seems. It's releasing my soul. This is what's going on. And all of a sudden, it just comes down to like one big eye looking at me. And there is my soul, like coming out of my body. And it looks like a little piece of gold, like rough, and it's just floating there. And a little tendril of gold goes up towards this eye. And then the next thing I know,
all right, 1 minute.
Towards this eye, rough, and it's just floating there, and the little tendril of gold goes up towards this eye.
Towards this eye. It floats up towards this eye, like maybe the all-seeing eye. I mean, you know what I just went through about, I don't know, maybe like 3 weeks ago. I went through the whole Lord of the Rings trilogy. And, you know, the one causing all the bullshit is the eye, the one-eye symbolism. Sitting and perched up on this mountain, this fiery eye. And it's directing all this chaos in Middle Earth. So what if maybe he experienced a little bit of that? Not necessarily saying like Lord of the Rings, but something similar. Because we know the one-eye symbolism is ridiculously saturated here on Earth and is worshipped to the hills. And there's a reason for that.
A little piece of gold, like rough, and it's just floating there, and the little tendril of gold goes up towards this eye. And then the next thing I know,
it's a wild experience, isn't it, guys? It's wild.
The next thing I know, I'm in the tunnel. I'm not my body anymore. I know I'm not my body. But it feels like me, and it feels like I have my body. But I know it's just my soul and my consciousness, and we're in this tunnel. And it doesn't feel, I know I'm moving so fast, and it seems like I'm moving like away from Earth, like, and I'm going an incredible distance really fast. But as myself, it doesn't really feel like I have the sensation of movement. And then, it seems like my perception expands, and I can kind of tell where I'm at, and I'm inside, and it's almost like a water balloon. And on the outside of it, I can feel information, but it's not something I can touch, or it's like, it feels like it's static, but it's not. It's moving, and it's moving super fast over the layer of this water balloon I'm in.
Interesting, isn't it? This is just such a mind-blowing NDE. I mean, let's just listen to this part one more time and try and see what could possibly be going on. So like so he's in a water balloon. Information is kind of trailing around him really fast. And
but it's not something I can touch, or it's like, it feels like it's static, but it's not. It's moving, and it's moving super fast over the layer of this water balloon I'm in.
Hey, Peter.
And then I kind of snap back into where I'm at, and everything comes into perception, and I tell that I'm like way far away from this thing, and I'm floating there, and I could be a mile from it. I could be 10,000 miles. I don't know. And I'm looking at this thing, and it's like, it's flattened, and it's kind of curved. And the light that's coming out is like, the light is being flattened. And that's the other thing I should tell you. Like, I'm in this dark cave, and there's no light on me. All I can see is this light down there, but it's all trapped at the bottom of this thing. And I think this was a black hole.
So there's a lot of light at the bottom. It's almost like he's in a void-like realm. Void state. Because a lot of the, especially a lot of the hell-like NDEs, they can experience the void, and I think because so many come from this super sensory experience that we have, that when they are kind of met with something like a void, it's a big shock to people. So some people can experience something and it'll be very negative, while others will be like, okay, nothing wrong with this. I'm just here chilling. So it's almost like he's in this void-like state. And with the negative NDEs, a lot of times there's always that, you know, they could be getting their ass kicked left and right. But there's always something like a light in the far distance, or something that if they put their intention or attention to, that will kind of ease their mind, soothe them for a moment, and then they go right back to getting their ass kicked again. But eventually they, you know, usually go to the light and end up with a total switch in experiences. Now, but he's like in this and he's looking down, and he kind of is comparing it to a black hole, which, you know, make of that what you will. But it maybe it's kind of like a portal. Could be something that leads back to Earth. We don't know.
There, but it's all trapped at the bottom of this thing. And I think this was a black hole that was transporting me from this realm to the other. That's the only thing I can think of everything that, anyway, but all of a sudden I was just immersed in this white light. It felt like every emotion, it just felt like I was being stretched, like in a million different, and it felt so uncomfortable, and I was being stretched, pulled, and
I was being stretched, pulled. So something is trying, in my opinion, trying to like fragment him. I mean, how else can it be really interpreted? I mean, you know, of course, that's just what I'm assuming, but it feels like, hey, give me your fragments. How dare you find your essence once again? You know, we don't want you to. You know, maybe, you know, I don't know.
Stretched, pulled, and I got it to the point where I was going to cry out, like, why? Like, let me in, like, I don't know. And then, bam, I was in. I was on the other side, and I was floating there. And the first thing that came to my mind was I was home. And I don't know why. That's the first thing. You're home. And I'm floating there, and it's like I'm in space. And to my right, there's like this column of gold. It's shaped like this, and it's huge, far away. And I'm floating there, and it's like I'm in space.
There, listen.
And to my right, there's like this column of gold. It's shaped like this, and it's huge.
Column of gold, and it's huge. I mean, really, the column thing. Here we go again with columns. You know, he doesn't say, oh, you know, it's like Greco-Roman or whatever. No, he doesn't say that. But here we go again with the columns appearing. You know, I wish we got a little more detail on it. I'd actually really like to speak with Kevin, and I may try to reach out to him if I can find his information. And if any of you run across his information, please email me. Or leave a comment after the video. I'd greatly appreciate it. But yeah, just such a mind-blowing
case. I'm floating there, and it's like I'm in space. And to my right, there's like this column of gold. It's shaped like this, and it's
more
huge,
columns,
far away. Like I'm floating in the universe. There's all these white lights.
All these white lights.
Zero in, and I zero in the one closest to me, and I can see it's like there's like a pattern to it. I realize it's a soul. I realize I'm a soul. I know what I look like.
This is going to blow your mind, guys.
Like I'm not human formed or whatever. I'm like soul shaped now, I guess. But this other soul that's closest to me, I look at it and I can tell it's not the same as me. I think it's something different. And I think it's just like an alien? that just didn't seem right. And this is where, this is like, we're super far out.
No, it's not. It's not, Kevin.
But anyway, I recognize it as a machine soul. This is like a robot.
Hear that? It's like a machine soul, like a robot, like a freaking NPC. I mean, how much have we been talking about on this channel? How these are mechanisms put in place that are like an AI. And here he is admitting it. We're getting it right from the horse's mouth. And he's saying, oh, you're going to think it's crazy. It's not crazy, Kevin. This system that we are in is run by some sort of crazy AI. It was not, you're not crazy at all, my friend.
But anyway, I recognize it as a machine soul. This is like a robot, a self-aware robot that has died, but has carried on to the other side, and I thought to myself, how could that be possible? And then a female voice speaks to me.
How could that be possible? He's having a realization that, oh, this is like, some self-aware robot. And then all of a sudden, ding, 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 the voice from arrives. Oh, we gotta, Mayday, Mayday, we gotta get Kevin in line here. It's just like, really, it's so, okay.
And then a female voice speaks to me and says, well, think of it this way. She starts talking to me. I realize this is my guide. I have a guide. I have somebody that's telling me, that's going to tell me stuff. And I realize I'm totally surrounded by, in this universe, I'm totally surrounded by information.
This is a guide. Or at least let's assume it's a guide. Okay? A guide that is like a robot. Okay? These are automated systems, just like with people who experience pre-birth memories. I most of the time I do not think that they are dealing with true essence beings that actually have an essence. It's an automated piece of machinery that it just keeps going and going and going and going. And it's like a conveyor belt. Okay, next. Time for you to go to Earth. Okay, here's your, here's some options for your life script and yada, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And then it just goes on and on and on. I mean, now, can we say with any certainty that Kevin was dealing with a soulless being? No. But I find it interesting how when he started to question things, all of a sudden, here's the voice.
Tell me stuff.
And it happens to be his guide.
And I realize I'm totally surrounded by, in this universe, I'm totally surrounded by information. I know that there is whatever I want to know, whatever's happened in this universe, I know it's in here. I don't know how I know this, I just know it. Anyway, this female voice starts talking to me and just says, well, think of it this way. You think, when you're, it doesn't matter if you're, what did she say? It doesn't matter if you're biological or machine, you're going to get to some point in your existence where you're going to become self-aware, and you're going to look into the universe and you're going to wonder, who am I? What am I? And it's going to be no different than a machine. And that machine is going to, when it becomes aware, it's going to have the same kind of thoughts, or not the same kind of thoughts, but it's going to have the same kind of wonders when it looks out into the universe. What is this all about? What does this mean, kind of deal?
Yeah, and we are purposely firewalled off from finding ourselves. It takes so much effort, so much for us to break through the programming, break through the BS. It is criminal how much effort it takes to find yourself here, to ask the big questions and actually feel comfortable with some of the answers, and think about the bull that is spit out to us at a young age, or depending on, what religion you may grow up in, or what country, or what village or tribe. And then this crap goes on out there on top of it. If non-interference, sovereignty, and liberation is a cult, sign me up. Because I am sick of seeing that bullshit. I mean, people have no clue what we are dealing with. No clue. This is a massive problem. And it's an easy solution. It really is. But what's the use? You guys get my point.
But then she told me that we were special because unlike that machine robot or that machine soul, that soul could never travel back to our universe. Like we're able, or we can reincarnate. When I was over on the other side.
What a treat. I mean, come on. Here, listen to that again, guys.
Machine robot, or that machine soul, that soul could never travel back to our universe. Like we're able, or we can reincarnate. When I was over on the other side, like I have a wife and I have like 5 beautiful children. But I tell you, man, I would have stayed there forever if I was given the choice. But I wasn't given the choice. I was given the choice, but I was sent back. And then the next thing I know, I'm back. But I'm I'm just instantly, I'm back and I'm floating above my body. And I'm about 3 feet above my left shoulder and I'm looking down at myself. And I can see myself sitting there on the edge of the bed. And I'm still looking directly towards the tunnel. That's a little over that way. But I can see myself and I'm starting to close my eyes. I'm starting to tip over to my right side. And I know right then and there that this is the point where I die. Like I know that in the next minute or so, or next second or so, I'm going to fall off that bed and I'm going to hit the floor and I'm going to be dead because I've already left my body. I'm floating above it. I can't do anything about this. And this whole thing that's happened to me has happened like in a split second. Like it's that fine second between life and death, like that fine line. And when I was in that line, it seemed like time, like I was outside of time. So a lot happened in a split second. So anyway, I'm floating over my shoulder. I'm looking at myself. The next thing I know, I'm just slammed back into my body. Like it feels like I've been a piece of clay and I was just thrown against the wall. Like it's just like, bam, I'm back in.
And that's what a lot of people describe it as. They feel like they have been just violently thrown back into their body. We see this or hear it time and time again. Pale Horse Rider, thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you for the super chat. Thank you. Thank you kindly. You're always so kind and generous, my friend. Thank you.
And the first thing I noticed is every neuron in my brain, it seems like it's firing. And it seems like my head is like 5 times the size. It's just, and I'm just like, oh my God. I don't know why, but I think man, if we just knew the potential of our brains, it's just unreal. Like, it was just the most unreal sensation I've ever felt in my life. I'm still being just buffeted with that feeling of love and acceptance, and just and the tunnel's still there, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm thinking, like, why is it still here? That's what I'm thinking. It basically tells me why. It sends one word into my brain, and this word just totally, like, any sanity I had, it just like, and anyway, it shot this word into my brain, and I was just like, this kind of brought my mind kind of back, and I remembered the word, and the word was it was choose. And I understood it was asking me to choose whether I wanted to go back or wanted to stay. And I just said, I want to stay with my family. And I opened my eyes. It was gone. The tunnel was gone. That feeling was gone. It was unreal. And, but man, I was just so confused after it. I think my blood sugar had bottomed out too. I don't have diabetes or anything, but I think the bee sting had caused like a cascade of effects. And because afterwards, man, like for 2-3 hours, I was so confused, and just, I couldn't open my eyes, because this world looked so weird. Like, people, like when the EMS guys showed up, I couldn't look at them. They looked so weird. But I fell asleep when I got down to the ER, and then I felt better when I woke up. But it was just the weirdest thing. And like for 2 weeks afterwards, I couldn't drive a car. I would think about that light and the feelings that I felt from this being, and that feeling of patience it made me feel so humble. And I'd be driving, and I would just be drifting off thinking, and I'd lose concentration. So I had to stop driving for a couple of weeks. One of the best things that happened after this was, like, for 6 weeks for that, I tell you, man, I slept like a baby every night. Like, I would go to bed at like 9 o'clock at night. I would wake up at 5 in the morning. I'd sleep like I was like a 5-year-old that had played at the beach all day, kind of deal. It was so like, oh, it was so great.
What an incredible experience, and thank you for sharing that with us.
I totally agree. The experience is just totally unique, and there's much more to come. I do have to take a break. I got to check in on the dog. I'm telling you, everything that could go wrong has gone wrong tonight. Issues with the streaming, the mic that's like, maybe, I don't know, it's got it maybe like in January or December of either this January or December last year. The camera's giving me issues, the streaming software update, and screwed up a bunch of these plugins that I use. I mean, it just, everything and anything you could think of is just kind of occurred. And I apologize again for the long wait to get in tonight. And I hope things smooth out eventually. I'm also still trying to get used to the whole multi-streaming thing that I purchased. And eventually I'll get it down. But there's a lot of things. I spilled water on my keyboard. I mean, it's just everything could go wrong. So let's just take a 5-minute break, and we will meet up here again shortly. And there is much more to come. Thank you for your patience, my friends, and we'll see each other shortly. Thank you. Okay. I think we are good. Okay. Well, of course, the camera. Oh, what is going on, guys? Hold on. Okay. Hopefully this works. All right. Hello. All right. Welcome back. So, we are going to continue on with Kevin Lutz, NDE. I appreciate, again, your patience this evening, or whatever time of day it may be in your local area. All right.
I wanted to know, actually, so you did end up in the hospital, right, in the end?
Yeah, I wasn't. I got dumped into the waiting room. I didn't actually see anybody. The hospital was on a. They had a internal COVID outbreak.
Okay.
So they were on like locked doors things, and it was just I guess a crazy day. So I actually wasn't seen by. I came in and they just put me in a wheelchair and took me out to the waiting room, and that's where I fell asleep for like 2 hours out there.
Mhm.
Yeah. So.
Wow. Yeah. It's amazing because the way you describe your experience, it sounds it's quite unique. It's not like anything I've ever heard before, but at the same time, it kind of, I could parallel it to, you know, what's referred to as a life review. You know, it seems like all those information downloads that you were given, they kind of unfolded sequentially, right? Or were they all out of order, or did it even matter? You just were sort of given everything at once.
No, everything like I was hooked up. It seemed like I was hooked up to something, and I had no control of what information was given to me, but I kind of had a general knowledge of things. The information would come so fast, and that's why like afterwards, like 5 days into this, after this thing, it was like on Sunday, and that was the thing. My mind, man, it took.
This is just getting so bad. The mic failed, the camera failed. It just said I had a power surge in my USB port.
It's like I was hooked up. It seemed like I was hooked up to something, and
It seemed like I was hooked up to something. Hooked up to something.
It's like I was hooked up. It seemed like I was hooked up to something, and I had no control of what information was given to me, but I kind of had a general knowledge of things. The information would come so fast, and that's why like afterwards, like 5 days into this, after this thing, it was like on Sunday, and that was the thing. My mind, man, it took like a good week for me to get my mind clear,
Right?
because I guess just from the shock or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But 5 days afterwards, I just had to start writing stuff down, because I couldn't keep things kept just like a man.
Incredible. And you felt a lot. You had mentioned that you felt a lot of emotions. And did you feel anything like from other perspectives, like emotions in particular situations, but not from your perspective, but somebody else's? You know what I mean?
No, I felt emotion from whatever this, I guess, what this cosmic being or whatever, like when it was having the patience with me and stuff like that. But no, all the emotions, yeah, it was all from it. I was just immersed in a blanket of
Just immersed in a blanket. It was all coming from this being. I mean, he just keeps admitting over and over and over again, you know, how he is under this thing's spell. He's not saying that, but that's what we're hearing. So please, please, please don't discount the importance of what's being conveyed here.
whatever this, I guess, what this cosmic being or whatever, like when it was when I was having the patients with me and stuff like that. But no, all the emotions, yeah, it was all from it. I was just immersed in a blanket of just love and acceptance and everything positive, nothing negative, and
I was immersed in a blanket. Nothing positive, nothing negative, everything positive. I was immersed in a blanket. What's that? That's basically like they are being taken over. Something is controlling them.
like I just don't, and that's my biggest thing that I've thought about ever since is like I think, like for me, I'm not like I'm not a saint, I'm not a criminal or anything, but have I made mistakes in my past? For sure. Have I stolen stuff? Yeah. But I'm not a criminal. I've worked my whole life and stuff like that. But when I was younger, I did stuff. And but I know that I've always been a good father to my kids, and I've been like a good person. And the thing I'm trying to say is this death experience, it seemed like it was customized just for me. And I think every other person has their own way to get to the same place. You know what I mean?
Exactly, because it's a set of mechanisms, Kevin. You said it yourself, and in the top leading researchers on near-death experiences will say time and time again, and I'll say what I see too, is that everything is customized to the individual. It is meant, or it is set up that way so that you fall in line, that you're easier prey. So why does it take those fragments from Kevin in the beginning and use them against him? Because it's got an agenda. It's got something that it wants to do. It's trying to continue to win Kevin over in whatever way possible. Kevin may be dying, Kevin may be not. And so the Matrix takes these fragments out of Kevin, and in turn, it has everything it needs. It analyzes all this data and implements something like a life review. And as Kevin said himself, it was very interested in his pain and hardships.
But because they're different, like for you, like you're a different personality. We don't know each other. We don't know how each other thinks. And when it comes to your time, you're not going to see the same thing as me. Probably not. But there's probably a few things that seem to be common, like the tunnel and the light and it seems like the blanket of love in that,
Right.
Yeah.
The tunnel is also very interesting because I've never heard of somebody having this type of experience in parallel with like the joining of the two worlds, at once.
No.
Yes, like being on the other side and looking down at what's happening for sure, but you sort of had like, perspective from here on Earth, seeing the tunnel and
like I can't believe, like the thing was like as soon as it's happened, and like I said, this happened like in a split second, man. Like my family didn't even have a clue what was going on, because this happened so fast in their eyes. But for me, this went on for a bit. As soon as it happened, I knew that something out of the ordinary had happened to me, and I just couldn't believe how much I could remember of what happened. Like if I sit down and I think about things, I can really dive deep, and I can feel, if I really sit there and I think about things, I can actually feel how I felt when I was, when the universe, I guess, was like right there, like just that feeling of just joy.
And a lot of near-death experiencers will say that. So this is another very common data point, is how they're able to relive it. or if they can somehow tap into it and connect with the experience that they had. And sometimes over the course of months, years, some of it becomes even more clearer. Like things start to reveal themselves more, and they're like, oh yeah, that happened to me too. Now, of course, you got to be careful with that too, especially from a research point of view, because for me personally, if someone's adding too much, and especially if they're selling lots of books, there's a few out there who are really egregious with this. I'm not going to name names, but there are a few. And, every book they come out with, all of a sudden, there's like these massive revelations about this and that and this and that. And it goes on and on and on. And it kind of builds up their quote unquote guru complex. But then there are plenty of others who have NDEs and they'll give their initial testimony, and then like a little more information will come out, but it's not going to be something massive. It'll be interesting. It'll definitely add to the original testimony, but it's not like some of these other clowns out there that you got to watch out for. Of course, with anything, just use your discernment.
And it helps with the memories. It's kind of like, you hear a song and you can, a song that you heard 40 years ago, and you can kind of remember it was kind of like that with my emotions. And that was the thing that voice told me, that lady. She said that, like us, like as humans, we're very intelligent. We have this exceptional body that is actually very amazing, but it is limited in how long it can live. But it's the emotions that we produce, which is it's for some reason, this is very important for when we die, we pass on, like all the information that you and I have accumulated on this earth, it cannot be destroyed. It's like energy. Energy can't be destroyed, neither can information. That's why our lives are important. That's why every life is important, because every life has a different perspective on this earth. And all this information that we live on this life, it doesn't get lost. The universe takes it, it absorbs it. Like everything that we do is not going to be lost. Like it's important.
Yeah.
But really just as my background, not very religious. And, just like everyone else, I've always wondered, I always hoped that there was like a God or something, but I would look at how big the universe was and I'd be like, how could that be possible? But now for some reason, I just know that it is possible. And I have no,
Kevin, you never know.
Yeah, no, I've been to church and stuff like that, but I'm not a big, there's a lot of problems I have with religion. And some things I just don't agree with. So my wife was raised Catholic, but myself, I wasn't. We were always raised to believe that there was a God and that kind of stuff. But my dad he was like a good old country boy. So, it was kind of like a country religion is what I was relayed, or how I was taught when I was a kid.
So how's your perspective of life and death changed, if at all, since this incident? Like before the incident, did you believe there was an afterlife?
I kind of was on the fence. I really kind of wish there was. I kind of hope there was, but then there was the whole hell thing, like, oh my God, would I end up in hell kind of deal? Like, I just didn't like thinking about that. But then I would look at, like I said before, I'd look at the universe and I'd be like, it's so big. How could something be able to take care of this whole universe. But now I see that, yes, in fact, it is true that there is something that is connected to everything in the entire universe. You know, I'm still kind of scared of dying. I don't want to go through that. It's a pretty big trauma your body goes through. But I do understand that when I went through, it seemed there was like 3 points in the whole thing. It's in that death process where I was really in a lot of distress mentally in that. And it seemed like every time that happened, something would come in to calm me down, you know? And so it seems to me that this a blanket of love and everything that we get is to help us transcend our soul into the next life, to help keep the trauma down, because, you know, dying is pretty traumatic for your mind and body. So, but as for the dying part, like, man, if that's actually where I'm going to go, that's a pretty good deal. And I really
see, already has preconceived notions like, hey, you know, if that's where I'm going to go, I'm okay with that. See, like, we got to stop just blindly accepting these automatic things. We're conditioned here so that when we die at the time of natural death, that we accept everything over there and don't question it. There's nothing wrong with us questioning things and standing our ground and seeing what the heck happens, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Don't let these mechanisms, this pathetic, lame realm or realms get its dirty claws in you, because you're so much better than that. You're so much powerful, so much more powerful than that, so much stronger, and you deserve better. You don't need to answer to any of these things. And it's time we put our foot down as individuals and do what we need to do. Oh, this stupid thing.
Really, I don't know what your beliefs are or anything like that, but I didn't see any whiff of any negativity or any hell or anything like that. I don't know if it exists.
I think it's a state of consciousness. And, you know, I mean, what do I know? But I think it's basically a state of consciousness. And anyone that has experienced hell that might be watching this, I apologize. I'm not trying to minimize anything. Definitely know you believe and what you experienced was real. But the thing is, you know, I believe that that's just like that. Like I said, it's a state of consciousness, and then hopefully eventually, and most people, it seems, you know, that I've at least spoken to or heard from on other channels have eventually broke out of that and found love and whatnot. Speaking of which, now you're talking about this feeling of love, and you had various like levels of this experience, but at one point you said you sort of like came back to your body and all those things disappeared one by one, and even that whole feeling. So did you not carry that over with you, that feeling of that love or understanding, like, you know, post NDE? Yeah.
No, I totally understand that feeling. I carry that in my chest, man.
Yeah,
that feeling of what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The way I look at the world now is like everything that I've told you, this whole story. When I woke up that morning of July 13th, 2021, like none of this was in my brain. And then when I went to bed that night, you know, my mind, like I was changed, like where this came from, I have no idea. Well, I do, and I do have an idea. I die, but yeah, like as soon as that tunnel and everything appeared, but then those shards or whatever, when they appeared, yeah, you know, it was like floating, like right, it shocked me because I kind of felt it. It kind of came out of my head, And then they all flew over, but they stopped. And that's when I saw there was like, and I know they all came from my body. And for some reason,
And I know they all came from my body. He's talking about the shards earlier in the show.
when they got sucked into that tunnel, I think that's what it used to download my life.
Boom. There's the truth bombs. See, even he admits that these shards were used to quote unquote download his life. So what is it doing? It's taking his data from his entire life, from these shards, and in turn running it through the AI supercomputer and then spitting out what it feels it needs to spit out in order to convince Kevin. See, this is an automated system. This is not some sort of godly construct or divine construct. It just is not. This is a computer program. It couldn't be more obvious, guys. It couldn't be more obvious. So please, please don't submit to this. You're better than this. Oop.
So yeah, I was just speaking with your dad about his whole near-death experience, and I wanted to sort of get a little bit of your perspective right from the actual day it happened. If there's anything that you wanted to share with us about it.
It was a super weird day. Like, we have chickens, and so my dad was out back with my mom and my sisters, and I was inside, and he came in and was like, I think I got stung by something. And we didn't really think anything of it because he's been stung before. Like, it's never really been a big deal. But he immediately he was like pale, like so stark white, and just immediately like totally like a ghost. And at the time their bedroom was down here. And so my mom was basically like, just call 911. And I had to leave the meeting and say, I have to call an ambulance for my dad. And he was just sitting on the bed, and he was just like, I'm sorry, like, I'm so proud of you guys, like, I'm so proud of you, I'm gonna miss you guys so much. And like, he kept looking past me, like towards where my bedroom is. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't really looking at me, but he was saying like, I'm so proud of you guys, like, I love you so much. He was just like really freaking me out because he wasn't acting normal. And then he just basically like, our pug came up and he started petting him and was just like, oh, I love you so much, like, I'm so glad you're here. Like, but he was just almost crying, like he was just so upset. And then I went out front to wait for the ambulance, and then when I came back in and like they were loading him on, he was still just like, I love you guys, like, I'm so proud of you, like, I'm so glad that you guys are in my life, like, and was super freaking us out. And then he just kind of like came home, and he was like, it was the weirdest thing. And then over the next couple of days, he just started opening up to us about what had actually happened, and that he had this near-death experience, and that he saw something standing right behind me, like this light, and slowly started telling us more. And then he let me read his what he'd written about it. And yeah, it was a really like scary experience because I'd never obviously seen him like that.
All right. Hello. Okay. I'm sorry to pause it. Do you guys keep hearing this connection and disconnection? I hope it stops. I keep saying I got a power surge on my computer with the USB connections, but yeah, you do hear it, huh? All right. I apologize. I don't know how to, let's just continue. It stopped for now, but I'm sorry.
And he was very much affected by what happened. Like, it obviously really unsettled him. And yeah.
Wow. I mean, wow. Thank you for sharing that. It's amazing. And what are your thoughts on all of this?
I mean,
what do you think he experienced?
I'm not sure. Like, I consider myself a skeptic for most things. Like, I like to look at the more scientific side of things. Like, I'd like there to be ghosts and an afterlife and stuff like that. Like, I like that idea of it, but I don't know that I necessarily believe, but like what he's experienced and what he describes is such like such a profound experience that it's hard for me not to look at that and say he experienced something. Like he obviously, like, something happened, and I don't know, like, just the way he talks about it and the way he writes about it, it's obviously something so personal and deep and touching that I can't just be like dismissive of it and be like, oh, that there's no such thing, because obviously it happened.
For sure.
And obviously it happens to a ton of other people.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of broadened my thinking on like looking into it, and maybe there is some scientific explanation, but there also could just be a spiritual one, and I don't, unless I go through that, like there's not really any way for me to say.
It could even be both.
Exactly. Yeah.
Either way, it was extraordinary by the sounds of it. And
Absolutely.
I mean, just so grateful that he was able to share that with my channel, because I mean, I've never heard anything like this. It's really extraordinary and unique.
Yeah, that's what the feedback's been so far, is people saying like it's just so detailed and vivid, and that's really been impressed upon me, like how well he remembers it and how much it affected him.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. It's a very unique NDE, and you know, I start hearing like there are different NDEs, like as a result of how someone quote unquote died. Okay, you know, you can have car accidents, you can have anything. You pick the scenario. But things like comas, or like in here, like we have a someone getting stung by a bee, like when it's something different, or like overdose, all these types of things seem to present a little different experience in their own way. Like, whereas like they each kind of have their revealing moments, but they're different, if that makes sense. And I never really considered looking too much into things like bee bites or bee stings. And here's a really funny story, guys. I wanted to tell this early on, but you know, this experience, they kind of hit you with it early on. But I got a really, really funny story. It doesn't involve a near-death experience, but okay. So when I was young, very young, probably 5 or 6 years old, we used to have, you know, this is on the Italian side of my family. We used to have, of course, classic Sunday dinner at my grandmother's house, and the whole family get together, and we'd have, you know, sometimes if it was in the summer, we'd sit outside and have everything set up on the patio or the deck, I should say. And then in the winter, we'd obviously sit inside. But so, my grandfather was really into croquet or cricket. I mean, I hated it, but I used to play basketball. There's a basketball hoop there. Anyways, I'm playing basketball, and my uncle is down by where my grandfather grew all these tomato plants, you know, to make sauce. And he's over there, and there was like, I guess, a shit ton of bees. And he gets stung by a bee and goes into shock. He's insanely allergic to bees. And so this is so freaking funny. We pack up the car, you know, because we got to bring him to the emergency room. That's how bad it is for him. And so we all pack up in the car. And we leave the house to go towards the hospital. We make it down like the end of the road, and then we realize that we left my uncle back at the house. So we, the whole family gets into the car, and the person who's supposed to be going to the hospital, we leave behind. We have to drive back and get him and get into the car, and he's all like puffed up and shit. I mean, it is a funny story. So I thought I'd share that with you, but it's definitely something that sticks out in my head. But yeah, I mean, it sucks to have to be allergic to bees. Oh, miserable.
Thank you so much, Pila. I really,
Yeah.
really appreciate you doing this. It was last minute, off the cuff, and you're awesome. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, John.
My pleasure.
I was so grateful for my family. Like that's another, I'm so happy for and grateful for my wife and my kids and my wife. She saved my life that day, and will forever be. Because when I came back, I couldn't like I said, I couldn't open my eyes. But all I could do was listen to her voice, and she kept me calm, because I started getting very anxious when I started thinking about things, and she kept me very calm until the ambulance and that came, and yeah, she definitely helped me.
Yeah, it's interesting how because you said that there's that split second between life and death, and that's when your experience might have happened. But at the same time, like your experience happened here and there. Like it's like you had one foot
I know.
out. So technically, it lasted at least a few minutes with all the.
Who knows? Maybe my memory of how the time was, transpiring is probably a little off too. After this all happened, and when I was recovering from this, the few weeks after the incident, I think a lot about my life, my past, and that. But it was weird, because when I look back at my past at times where, maybe I wasn't so proud, that kind of stuff, I was able to see like the good that I had actually been doing for myself, because when I was still, my mom died at a young age. And when I was still going to high school, I was basically living on my own. I was working full time, and I was going to high school and that kind of stuff. And but I was kind of like a loner, because I was by myself all the time. But I look back at those times now, and times before where I'd feel ashamed. I'd look back now, and I'd feel like, damn, man, you were doing pretty good for yourself, for your situation and that, and you're taking care of yourself, and you were doing the right thing, but you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
It was so weird. It seems like when I came back to my body, all my memories and that were downloaded, but they're not quite the same, because I think all my original memories are out there in the cosmos now. They all got downloaded.
All my original memories are out in the cosmos. They got downloaded. Really? It's yeah, the memories got hijacked, Kevin. That's what this matrix does well.
But they're not quite the same, because I think all my original memories are out there in the cosmos now. They all got downloaded. When I came back and all my neurons were like firing, I think they were giving me back all my memories and everything too. But I don't know, they're just not quite the same. I can look back in my life and actually see, the good things. My memories were more clear. I could remember things better. I could actually remember like the smells, like when I was a kid playing at my aunt's place. She lived on the beach in Qualicum Beach, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like it was great. It was like I kind of had a life review afterwards. It's definitely changed my outlook and how I look at what's important in life now.
Is there anything you wanted to add, or is there any message you wanted to give to maybe the viewers?
I just, the thing that I think was a couple of things that were like, I thought were really important, was that about the information, that information cannot be destroyed. which in turn means that, you know, all like that, which means like our life experiences that we live on this earth, whether they're good or bad, they're all important. But now I kind of know that it doesn't matter if, you know, I live a life like a movie star, or if I just live a life like the regular working man that I am, but my life is just as important as anybody else's out there, you know? So
Most definitely. Most definitely.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's really all.
Thank you so very much for being so open and for sharing your experience. And but this whole thing has been really, really, really amazing, and I appreciate your time and I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, John.
All right. Thank you so much for tuning into this NDE. Just want to say really quickly, give a big shout out and thank you to the channel Earth to the Other Side for providing this interview to us. And I do recommend that you go check out his channel. Like I said, he's kind of a new and upcoming channel and is starting to put out some really interesting NDE cases. I think this is the second from his channel that I've covered. And yeah, feel free to go check them out. And talk about a really interesting case, though. I mean, from start to finish, really, really just a different experience. And what really kind of makes it different is the how he experienced things. You know, the bee sting particularly, it stands out as its own unique signature. Okay. And you can see by the way he was explaining things that he was going in between the near-death experience and out-of-body experience, kind of teetering back and forth until it kind of went into a full-fledged near-death experience. But yeah, really, really fascinating. I want to give a big shout out and thank you to everyone watching over on Twitch, Rumble, ODYSEE, Facebook, and here on YouTube, of course. This might be another site I'm forgetting it. DLIVE. Hello on DLIVE. I appreciate everyone for tuning in and hope you enjoyed tonight's show. Just to give you a heads up, the monthly members live stream for levels 2 and higher is this Sunday, September 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's this Sunday, the 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you're interested in joining the Last Timers Club, you can check out the pinned comment above or also in the description tab as well. And there is a backlog of videos available dating back to, actually, we're coming up on a year. I think next month will be officially 1 year of monthly members live streams. So if you're interested in checking those out and supporting the channels and have the means to do so, I greatly appreciate it. But of course, nothing is ever expected, but always appreciated. I also have a Stripe account if you're looking to donate to the channel. They only take about 2 or 3% versus YouTube's 30%. And then there's also 2 YouTube backup channels, just in case something should ever happen here. There's an Instagram, a Twitter, and as we discussed earlier, DLIVE, Rumble, ODYSEE, and I might be missing one. Oh, Facebook, which I just signed up for a few weeks ago. And although they seem to be really difficult with doing almost anything over there. Started off all right, but now it's just become a pain in the ass. But, you know, it's there. Yeah, I think that's going to be about it. I appreciate each and every one of you for stopping by tonight. And again, I apologize for the technical issues earlier on in the stream. Just to kind of give you a heads up on things going forward, I think with multi-streaming that I can't necessarily create a stream in advance like I used to. So it's going to be a little more last minute. And if I send out a notification, I'll say, okay, well, the stream will be starting about this time, but, you know, it won't appear till, let's just say, you know, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you may have to refresh the homepage. I got to try and see if I can figure it out so we're not dealing with that. But as of right now, in order to really kind of spread out this information across multiple platforms, scheduling like I used to seems to be kind of an issue. So the other thing is to keep an eye on Instagram and Twitter, where I try to send out a notification about an hour in advance. And there are streams every weekend here on the channel. And yeah, so thank you so much for hanging out tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you and your patience. I also want to give a big thank you again to Pale Horse Rider for the very kind and generous super chat earlier, and all the members, new and existing. Thank you so much. And we will see each other again soon. Take care of yourselves out there. Don't work too hard, and have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll see each other tomorrow. Who knows? Oh, you know what? Yeah, you know, I'll do a separate video on that. I'll do a separate video. All right. Thank you. Take care of yourselves.